Good morning. It's good to see you here. We start our press conference, which we are doing in monthly format. Now it is in hybrid format, so we're taking some questions from the room, and then we'll go to the chat. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Theodore. I would like to welcome you all in the UN. I think you're all early birds, as it seems to be, because it's 9 o'clock only. So I really applaud your desire to listen to what I'm saying, and I'm very much eager to answer your questions. I will start, as I started last time, with the quotes of the day and the tweet of the day, of the month. So the quote of the month, in my understanding, goes to Minister of Energy of the United States, who was speaking in front of the Senate maybe yesterday, and she said that the Russian gas that is supposed to be transported by Nord Stream 2 is 4 times more harmful for environment than American liquefied gas. This is extraordinary conclusion, given the fact that American liquefied gas mainly is being produced by from shale gas and by cracking, so you know how beneficial this procedure is for the environment. So I really applaud the creativity of our American colleagues when they want to achieve one-sided advantages in competition gains. The tweet of the month, again, it is related to the end of the month. I would say that this is the tweet of our colleagues from US mission to the United Nations after our discussion on situation with the diversion of Ryanair flight. So this tweet accompanies joint statement as it is called, on the forced diversion of Ryanair flight to Minsk. And it is said that several countries strongly condemned the forced landing of a Ryanair flight in Minsk, Belarus. Why I'm quoting this tweet is because it happened immediately after our close consultations, where we discussed this issue, and where I specifically pointed out to my colleagues that by stating so, by stating that this is forced landing, they actually spread fake news. And I received also, going to questions, I received a question from Valeria Rebecca that is related to this situation. But I would, just to illustrate my position, I would quote 2 documents to you. The first document is the transcript of a conversation between the crew of Ryanair flight and the control tower in Minsk. It will not be long. So the control tower, it is available free in the internet. The control tower says, we have information from special services that you have bomb on board and it can be activated over Vilnius. And it is said that for security reason, we recommend you to land at Minsk airport. I stress, we recommend you to land. And the text shows that the pilot was thinking, and then he decided to land in Minsk. So this is a forced landing. Okay, I will give you an example of the forced landing. 2016, the Belavia again flight over, which started from Kiev and was about to enter the airspace of Belarus, but then it receives the message from the control tower in Kiev. Belavia, I have the instructions. You have to return to airport of Zhuliany. If you do not obey this order, I will raise fire jets to intercept you. End of quote. There was no international reaction to this. The plane was diverted. It landed in Zhuliany airport. And one of the Ukrainian opposition leaders, Mr. Martirosyan, was intercepted from the plane. I'm not saying that I try to give you the example to show that everything was done okay in Minsk, and there will be, of course, certain investigation. As you know, the International Organization of Civil Aviation will look into it. But to say from the outset that this is a forced landing, to condemn it and to introduce sanctions without any investigation, this kind of behavior is absolutely irresponsible. And we do not understand the reasoning of our European and American colleagues when they conduct such kind of things. So I will not dwell into the details of our position. I think you know it about forced landings and about how other countries are trying to intercept planes in the airspace. There were a lot of statements from my colleagues recently in this regard. And Valeria specifically asked, is there room at the UN to think about the release of the reporter Protasevich arrested by the Minsk police authorities? Is Russia ready to commit itself to this through mediation? There is one, I would say, not mistake, but one thing that is not correct in this statement, Valeria, in your question. This is the word reporter. So Mr. Protasevich, he is a blogger, that's for sure. But before being a blogger, he was also a fighter. He was a fighter in Ukraine. He was a fighter in the Azov regiment of neo-Nazi and far-right groups. I think that was the reason for for Belarusian authorities to ask a warrant for his arrest internationally, and he is in the internationally wanted people list. So there are internal procedures in Belarus, and Belarus has the right to apply them. Once Mr. Protasevich happened to be on Belarusian soil, this way or another, the Belarusian control services had the right to arrest him. That's absolutely clear. What will happen after that, I think we will need to see through investigation, through what Belarusian authorities will do. They have a legal system, and this legal system, of course, will be enacted to determine how serious are Mr. Protasevich's wrongdoing. But I really appeal to you not to call him a reporter, because you are reporters. You didn't fight in any far-right battalions and regiments abroad. And you are trying to report on the events that happened. Mr. Protasevich was not reporting, he was undermining Belarusian political system. You can like it or not like it, but this is another type of profession, I would say, another type of activity. And of course, Russia is following this situation very closely, and we are in close contact with Belarusian authorities. As you know, our presidents are meeting today, and of course, this issue will be discussed. But what really is astounding is the reaction of our colleagues and their Western colleagues, I mean, and their desire to spread fake news on the grounds that are very questionable and doubtful, without any, I would say, investigation and without any formal reasons to do so. This is very deplorable. If there are no follow-up questions on this issue, there are. Okay.
Yes, a follow-up question on it. I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for the briefing. A follow-up question on Belarus. Hopefully times have changed and we don't have the whataboutism of what happened in 2016. My question on this is, who is investigating, and do you have any fear that any autocrat anywhere in the world would try the same thing if Minsk gets away with this?
You mean, will there be any countries that would like to follow this example? Well, it's difficult for me to say. I don't have the crystal ball in front of me, of course. But again, we need to determine, and first of all, the International Organization of Civil Aviation will need to determine what were the reasons for grounding of this plane. Did the Belarusian authorities had the grounds? As far as we were informed, and that as it looks through the news sources from Belarus, they had such reasons. because there was an imminent threat to the plane. It was a threat to the country because it was in the airspace of Belarus. There is a Chicago Convention which entitles the country that possesses the airspace to have to bear full responsibility for the flight. So they had the right to do so. Again, they recommended to the pilot to land in Minsk airport. It means that he had other options. He could continue to Vilnius, he could return to Kiev, to Lvov, to any other airport, to Warsaw maybe. So there were plenty of choices, and there were no jets in the air at this moment to intercept. There was a jet when it was already landing, in accordance, as we were told, with internal procedures of Belarus when there is a threat of terrorist attack, which was the case in this situation. So whether other countries will follow this example or not, I don't know. Again, there are clear double standards there in retrospect. Maybe there will be in the future, but I am absolutely sure that there will be no outcry if a so-called Western democratic country would do the same thing as it happened with the plane of Eva Morales in Vienna in 2013. So for me, it's clear double standards. Yeah.
And what kind of investigation do you foresee? Who would conduct it, and when, and so forth?
Russia will not conduct any investigation because we're not related. There we have only one Russian citizen. To her, we asked for consular access. I think we got in touch with her, and she assured us that everything was okay, and we will continue to follow her fate. This is an internal matter of the Republic of Belarus for sure. From the very beginning, from the outset, Belarus was ready to provide information, necessary information for anybody, and it was clearly seen from the statement of Foreign Minister Mackay, for example. I heard that the International Organization of Civil Aviation is also foreseeing a probe in this event. I think it's more than enough for the time being. But again, the sequence of events is different because there is no investigation so far, but there are already sanctions for this. So the conclusion is already made, the culprits are designated, and I don't know what's the point of investigation if Western countries already have decided everything for themselves. And if they ignore such things as I quoted to you, two transcripts of communication with control tower, one about forced landing and another one about recommendation. So maybe they should sanction Ukraine for what they did in 2016. This is a clear forced landing, and the jets were in the air. The plane crew was endangered by these actions. We don't see such situation in Belarus. Again, what's investigation for if you already designated the culprits and made conclusions and introduced sanctions? We see this situation very often with Russia, with Syria when there was a strike on Duma, even before the inspectors from OPCW could enter this city. So United States, France, and UK already said that Syrians did it, and we need to punish them. So what's the point of investigation? This is the logic of the so-called collective West. They know they are right, and they will impose this to anybody who doesn't agree with them. Okay.
Any follow-up from the room?
On this issue?
Yeah, we have Pamela Falk here also. Carla.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Ambassador. It's Pamela Falk. I don't know why it's echoing, but if Ryanair was not a forced landing, was there any reason to believe there was a bomb on board? And was Russia not aware that Protasevich was on board? And were there any Russian agents on board, as the pilot indicated? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pamela. Well, we were not, of course, aware of this flight at all. We can't monitor every flight that is flying through Belarus or other independent countries of the world. So we are absolutely not aware of this. As for the bomb threat, again, I have only the version of Belarusian authorities. They said that they received a letter with a threat. It was attributed to Hamas, but Hamas denied it after that. No, you know, there are a lot of situations when there is a bogus phone call, for example, that there is a bomb in some building of commercial site, and people are getting evacuated before this threat is being verified, because this is imminent threat and they need to react. After that, if it turns that it is a work of some crazy person, well, there are a lot of crazy persons in the world. You can't monitor each and every one of them. But every authority treats such threats with full attention and respect, because it's about the life of its citizens. As for Russian agents on board the plane, this was also a fake news that was spread immediately after the news came about this incident. I think it was spread by our Baltic states colleagues from foreign ministers. I'm not exactly sure of whom exactly, but we can find out the name. So it was, there were allegations that there were 4 KGB agents on board the plane. First of all, KGB doesn't mean Russian KGB. For your information, Russian KGB has ceased to exist about 25 years ago. There is no longer KGB in Russia, but there is KGB in Belarus, which is called formerly KGB. And there were indeed 4 persons that went down from this plane. But the reason was very simple. They were initially planning to go to Minsk through Vilnius. So once the plane landed in Minsk, of course, it was reasonable for them to say, okay, our journey is over. And they were shown on Belarusian TV. One of them was a foreigner, I think a Greek national with his Belarusian wife. Well, are they KGB agents? It's difficult for me to say. Maybe there were KGB agents among the Ryanair pilots, I don't know, because they were maybe made agents while they were flying over the Belarusian airspace. I don't know, because they decided to land. It was their decision. Maybe it was due to their allegiance to Belarusian KGB, I don't know. But our Western colleagues will, of course, find out it very quickly. Okay.
Thank you so much. Just to clarify, you support the ICAO investigation, correct?
Sure, we support ICAO investigation, we support ICAO, and we support Belarus as well. Investigation doesn't mean designation of culprits from the outset. That's what I'm trying to explain, okay?
Thank you.
Only on this issue, Carlos.
This issue,
Yes. I understand that the U.S. ambassador to Greece is Mr. Pyatt. Do you know whether Mr. Protasevich met with him? Because if you recall, Mr. Pyatt and Victoria Nuland were involved in arranging the new government in Kiev following the overthrow of the democratically elected presidency of Yanukovych.
You seem to know much more than I do on this issue. I don't follow it
I
specifically.
follow it closely.
Okay, it's a credit to you. But as far as I know, from social networks, from Mr. Protasevich's own social network, he was repeatedly in Ukraine. He was in the United States, and there is a post, for example, of him being in State Department and saying that he had the most overwhelmingly emotional meetings in his lifetime. I don't know how many of you go regularly to State Department, but I guess that not many, because you work for different agencies and for different reasons. But again, it's up to Belarusian authorities to determine whether this person has any fault, is blamed of anything. So they said that he is wanted internationally. He arrived, again, this way or another. You can claim that it was not lawful, it was lawful, but he arrived in Belarus. In any case, he approaches Belarusian border control. Belarusian control has him listed. So what's the action of Belarusian control? Of course, he gets arrested. That's the only way out. There could be no other way. And you saw through pictures that Belarusian authorities they discharged the plane completely. They took out the luggage, and the luggage was checked by the dogs. So there was a special operation for checking for bomb. It's not like only Mr. Protasevich was taken from the plane and everybody else remained there. No, again, don't believe everything that that Western media publishes on this. I'm sorry to say this in front of some Western media outlets, but still. Okay, maybe.
Maybe we'll proceed with Carlos.
Maybe one last question.
On
this
the
issue.
follow-up, of course.
Yes, follow up, and
Alan.
because we spend too much attention to this issue. Yeah.
Yeah, just to follow up. Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. What was the stance of Russian Federation when Western countries expressed their will to discuss this issue among AOB? And do you foresee that some countries will further bring this matter to the Security Council agenda?
Well, every country, any country, has the right to raise any issue in the AOB, and we can't question this. These may be issues related to the agenda of Security Council or not related to the agenda of Security Council, as was the case with Belarus. So we listened to our colleagues. They were reproducing accusations and threats towards Belarus. I was there. In my statement, I really tried to calm them down and to ask them questions and to show that 99% of what they are saying is absolutely fake. And they are spreading fake news by making such statements. Well, they smiled, and then they went in front of you and made this statement, which is also based on fake news. So the only conclusion is that they were initially planning to organize this AOB as a pretext to approach you and to cite this statement of several countries. Several other countries joined. But I can tell you that during this meeting, regardless of what they claim, there was absolutely no unanimity in condemning what Belarus did. There were more appeals from other countries to learn more details, to engage in investigation, to which, as I stress, Belarusian authorities were ready from the very beginning. They were saying that they are ready to share the information with anybody who was interested, but nobody asked them for this information because, again, the culprits were already designated and the punishment was already formulated. So there was no unanimity on this issue in Security Council, and by making such moves, stepping in front of you and saying that we condemn and so on and so forth, they want to make an impression that this is kind of a position of the Security Council. Well, this is a trick, of course, and I don't think you will buy this trick. You know, you are experienced people. You will understand that these are like-minded countries. Some of them they obey bloc discipline. So this is an approach that is predictable. But it's very regrettable when Security Council is used for such performances, I would say, and it serves to no avail. It doesn't serve anybody. It doesn't serve the Security Council, and of course, it doesn't serve the task of finding out what really happened. Okay? Okay, one last maybe issue, and sorry, follow-up, and then to your question. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Just a quick follow-up. For Russia, what are the salient questions that need to be answered by the ICAO investigation? Just the most important things that need to be resolved.
I wasn't there at the meeting of ICAO, and so I don't know about the exact contents of the discussion and the details. I know that there are a lot of technical issues. There is a political issue which is being beefed up by our Western colleagues, and there are practical issues. Issues are very practical, like did Belarus have the reasons to divert, to advise to the crew to land in Minsk and not to continue in Vilnius. This is the main issue. But again, it's not up to me, but it's up to ICAO to see. And as far as I understand, ICAO should see whether Belarusian authorities' actions were in line with Chicago Convention, which is the basis for international flights. I would also very much, from my humble position, I would also very much welcome the determination of the steps that were taken by Western countries, whether they are legitimate or not, to boycott Belarusian airspace, whether they are compatible with Chicago Convention. But again, I don't have any expertise to see whether they are even related to Chicago Convention. As a normal person, I see it very weird and illogical. And of course, This is not something that is normal in the behavior, international behavior, the relations between countries. But again, I'm not an expert in aviation issues, and I don't claim to be. That's why let's leave it to ICAO, let's leave it to Belarusian authorities, and let's have what we have. Okay, thank you.
Majid, maybe the last one, yeah, on this issue. Okay, so
Other
then we have
Okay.
something to proceed.
So
with, yeah.
I received only 2 questions in advance. Carlos Tia was the person that sent the second question. I will read it aloud, but it looks more like a statement than a question, frankly. So it's not attributed to myself, frankly. My question concerns Security Council responsibility for authorizing resolutions used to destroy 3 countries, Libya, Iraq, and DPRK. The Security Council should compensate DPRK for obliterating the country in the war. Instead, the Security Council is inflicting sanctions perpetuating its obliteration of DPRK. This is in criminal violation of international humanitarian law. So far as a statement. You see, it's some people make such statements in Security Council, and well, the so-called humanitarian exemptions do not work, as Ambassador Nebenzia has admitted. So there is no question. Maybe you could.
Yes, the
Yeah.
question is, well, a brilliant new, well-documented book, Immovable Object by A.B. Abrams, documents from Western sources and U.S. military sources that the DPRK did not initiate hostilities in 1950, but the Security Council approved not only the obliteration of Korea, but the plan to use nuclear weapons over North Korea and China. So the question is, since Israel was repeatedly granted the right to defend itself, why is North Korea being singled out? It needs to defend itself against potential nuclear Armageddon, which it suffered in 1950, and this is documented by American military sources.
That's the question.
Yeah, the question is, well, the Chinese ambassador, when he spoke, said the sanctions have means to reverse them. Frankly, from a sane point of view, the DPRK is entitled to reparations, and so is Iraq and Libya. But instead of giving reparations, they're being sanctioned, which is like a double victimization. Why is this going on? I mean, I've asked this question again and again, and the humanitarian exemptions do not work. They're just a cosmetic device.
With China about humanitarian exemptions, as you know. We always call on our Western colleagues to accept the fact that they do not work. They do not work in DPRK, they do not work in Syria, in other regions. That's one issue. Another issue is what happened in 1950. I was too young at this time to remember, frankly. But I have some knowledge of the fact that I think we were not participating in these debates as Soviet Union. Yes, and Soviet Union decided, unfortunately, to step out for the discussion. China was a different China, so it's very difficult to connect us directly to what has happened. But what has happened has happened. That's a history. There are a lot of things that happened in recent 50, 40, 30, 20 years that we might regret, and we might look at them in another way. That's what books are for. So there are a lot of authors explaining their opinion, and some of them are very emotional, I would say, and you also get emotional when you read this. And of course, you feel an urge to act and to criticize people like me in the Security Council for not doing enough. But believe me, we are doing enough, and we are discussing these issues with our colleagues. You know that Russia and China are very insistent on humanitarian aspects on DPRK situation. Also, when you refer to sanctions, you should distinguish between sanctions of the Security Council, which are rather restrictions, I would say, and bilateral sanctions, which are much harsher and harder, and which really have an impact on this country. And we are very critical of these sanctions, as you know.
But if the Security Council did not have these sanctions, then the unilateral coercive sanctions would not be justified. They're using the Security Council as a means of justification.
I would advise you also to ask to our American colleagues or European colleagues, because these are their sanctions, not ours.
Carlo, please use the mic.
But okay,
I have. It's a lost cause.
let's move on. Thank you.
Okay, so Celia first.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ambassador. I'd like to know, it's about Mali. Is Russia in favor of individual sanctions, or would be in favor of those sanctions on the coup leaders?
Well, Russia is very cautious about sanctions, as you know. This is an instrument that can backfire easily. It's very easy to introduce sanctions, but it's not very easy to get rid of them afterwards. So before we come to this stage, and there are situations when Russia supports sanctions, as you know, in the activities of the Security Council. Before we come to this stage, we need to be absolutely clear of what's happening and what's this impact of what's happening on the situation in this or that country. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is, I think, the second coup, or I would say, unfortunate situation with the military in Mali during the recent couple of years or even a year. So the situation is very unstable, and it would be very unreasonable for us to rush into actions and to sanction everybody before understanding what's happening. So there are other instruments. First and foremost, this is mediation. There are regional organizations that are engaged very intensively. I know that ECOWAS is playing the key role in what Mali is concerned. So we need more information, first and foremost. Again, sanctions is what Western countries would like to do. Plain diverted, sanctions. Doesn't matter whether there are reasons for that or not. Plain diverted, Belarus, okay, sanctions immediately. It's just like knee-jerk reflect. Russia, computer, sanctions. No investigation, no facts on the table, just sanctions. That's very simple. It works like this. So we need to be very cautious, and we need to understand that when we introduce sanctions, this is really the last resort and the last tool in our toolbox. And we are still discussing situation in Mali, and that's why I think this is too premature to speak about this. Okay?
Majid.
Majid, yeah.
Thank you very much. Ambassador, my first question is on Syria, and the second one, as you expect, is on the Iraq, on the UNAMI vote. The first one on Syria, about the elections. Obviously, Russia is a big supporter of 2254, that political transition plan. Where do you see this election falling in terms of that political transition plan? Do you think it's possible for this election result to be annulled if the parties in Geneva, let's say, reached an agreement and decided on another election? I just wanted to know the Russian perspective on this. Then I'm going to ask about Iraq.
You asked where it falls in 2254. Nowhere. The answer is very simple. It's not related to this resolution. These elections were foreseen by internal political process in Syria many years before. This is regular elections, and we see absolutely no reason to link them whatsoever with political process that's going on in Geneva. Whether it might affect the future perception of these elections or not, it's up to Syrian parties to decide, of course. I don't think that any scenario is excluded, but so far what we have an independent country which conducted elections, which was ready to conduct elections anywhere, I would say, but you know that there were problems with this. We know that Germany, for example, didn't give an authorization for Syrian embassies and consular departments to organize elections on its territory, which was a clear violation of Vienna Convention. You know that there were skirmishes in Beirut, if I'm not mistaken, when people who were going to vote were attacked and insulted and intimidated, which is also very deplorable. So there was a clear pressure on Syrians abroad, either not to vote or to vote in the way that some forces would find it obvious for them to vote. But it's the decision of Syrians themselves. So the vote has taken place. We have absolutely no reasons to doubt the vote. We think that this was the choice of Syrian people at this stage. What will be after? How will it be related to political process? Let's see what will be the outcome of political process, which is ongoing, as you know. Okay?
And my second question is on the UNAMI vote. Some of my Iraqi sources said this was not what we asked for in terms of the election assistance. You know, Iraq asked for assistance, a big role for the United Nations to the extent to be UN supervising the election. This resolution gives them assistance, further assistance, but they say it's not enough because of what's happening in Iraq. You know, the lack of transparency and legitimacy. Some parties accuse the local election authorities. What do you think about that? Do you think that resolution gave the Iraqis the assistance they need in terms of the elections in October?
If I'm not mistaken, Iraqis wanted some monitors for the election. And the resolution, again, if I'm not mistaken, there is a language on authorizing monitoring functions for the mission. That's why I think that the result is achieved. You know, monitoring of elections is a very complicated process. And it is potentially a situation which can lead to certain internal political issues and problems. That's why countries are usually very, very accurate in terms when they speak about elections monitoring, and there should be very long-term work in this regard. I'm far from saying that ODIHR in Europe is a golden standard for monitoring such elections, but at least, for example, this organization has a long-established practice of sending long-term observers, short-term observers. It happens sometimes in a year's span before the elections. So there is a clear, I would say, mechanism and a clear system of how to monitor. This is applicable to the member states of OSCE. And again, we are not always happy. There are a lot of things that we reproach to ODIHR, and you might know about this. So they are not always unbiased. Even them are not unbiased, though they are supposed to be professionals. So what do you expect of UN monitors who are not specialists in election monitoring, who are not long-term observers? So to expect from them that they would engage in something that is absolutely outside of the frames of their mandate, even theoretically, would be a little bit ungrounded. So I think that the resolution, in the way that it was adopted, I think it's a very good result, and it really gives an opportunity for UNAMI to monitor the elections. That's what the Iraqi authorities were asking for us from the beginning. Mm-hmm.
Just one follow-up on the Syria. Ambassador, you mentioned the Syrians. You said this election, the Syrians chose their leader, but more than half of this country, at least, the Syrians did not participate in the election. A big chunk of Syrian society do not just consider Bashar al-Assad a legitimate leader. Some of them even see him as a criminal. How do you reconcile what you said, like the Syrians chose him in a normal election? I mean, the country is not even in a normal situation at all.
I said that Syrians living in Syria selected Bashar Assad as their president, and again, there were attempts to reach out for Syrians living abroad. I haven't heard that Syrian authorities would limit anybody from any category of people for not participating in this election, saying that they can't participate. So there were election offices abroad opened in several countries. I think that Turkey and Germany specifically banned the conduct of these elections on their territory. I don't know how it is related to the criticism that not every Syrian could take part on this election. So on the one hand, you criticize, I mean, not you, but okay, Western countries, criticize Syrian authorities that they do not conduct inclusive process. On the other hand, they ban these elections to happen in Germany and in Turkey, where theoretically any Syrian refugee being there could come and say that he doesn't want Bashar Assad for the president, in their logic. I don't know. So what's the correlation of this? I don't understand. If you want to help to organize elections in Syria, if you want to bring to give the opportunity to every Syrians abroad to participate, then you do not close, you do not forbid the country to organize elections on its territory, on your territory. That's absolutely clear for me. Again, there are a lot of refugees who can't come to Syria, who want to come to Syria, but who can't come to Syria for many reasons. Some of them are afraid, some of them technically can't do it, some of them are eager to come there, but they are not allowed to come, and there are cases like this. So it would be natural to let them come and to vote. There was not a problem like this. Syrian elections were not announced yesterday and conducted tomorrow. So it was a long preparation period for this, and Western countries and United States, first and foremost, were critical from the very beginning, from the outset. They were saying that they will not recognize these elections, whatever happens. So they didn't do anything to help to bring Syrians abroad and to help make them vote. So again, but this is not related to the political process that we see in Geneva, which potentially, as you know, will come to certain conclusions which may change Syrian legal, political, whatever landscape. But this is a process which is ongoing, and it is not related directly to what has happened in Syria right now, because this country needs to be governed, and they have president. People who live there at the territory that has been liberated, they voted for this president. So what's the point of questioning their decision? I frankly do not understand. Thank you. Yeah.
Philippe.
Thank you, Fedor. Thank you, Ambassador, for this briefing. Back to Africa, I have a question on Bangui and CAR. It's not a surprise for you. There was this request from Bangui to have a 600 Russian military. Notification has to be done 20 days before the arrival of the military. So it was at the beginning of the month, and so the notification ending last Monday. But process was put on hold by several countries. Can you tell us if you are going to wait the lift of the hold before the arrival of the Russian military, or maybe you can tell us that they already arrived this week? And if you can tell us also if these militaries are armed, are they going to fight? Thank you very much.
Well, some issues that you raised, they are directly related to the work on the relevant sanctions committee, and we do not comment this issue. This is a matter of internal discussions. Holds or not holds, this is something that we do not comment. As we do not monitor in Russia flights from flights to Belarus, we also do not monitor flights to Bangui, and I don't have information of how many people came there. Or didn't they come? I'm absolutely sure that they are not armed, because they are not supposed to be armed, as far as I understand. So they are instructors. Any quantities that you mentioned, those who came before, they came as instructors. I think they might deal with some armaments when they instruct people, but they are not supposed to fight. They are supposed to train people. That's what I know.
Just on the process, when there is a hold on a notification, it doesn't exclude that you can send military troops in CAR.
You encourage us to do it, or what? I don't know.
Or a hold on a notification process.
But it looks like you're encouraging us to do it. I don't know.
No. It's just a question because I don't know how it works.
I'm not aware of what's happening right now in this case. Again, with your permission, I will not comment on hold or not hold. But we are very obedient, and we are very respectful to all the decisions of Security Council in this regard, and Sanctions Committee as well. So we are very compliant with them. Okay, I will, with your permission, I have 10 minutes sharp, because there will be a meeting immediately after that, and I will have to do it from the headquarters.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Ambassador. Ray Bouchafra from Sky News Arabiya. Russian authorities said that Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which is a terrorist group in Syria, accompanied by members of the White Helmets, transported 6 containers with toxic substances to an area in Jisr Shughur, a city of Idlib. My question is, do you consider White Helmets as a terrorist group like any other ones, or just like opponents backed by a friend country, which is Turkey? Thank you.
Well, you know, we have very long established criticism of White Helmets. There are different people there in this organization. I'm absolutely sure, me personally, that there might be volunteers working there because of the urge of their heart, and they believe that they are doing right things. But the majority of people whom we see in the internet, or to whom the stories about what's happening in Syria are related. Somehow happen to be related to Hayat Tahrir al-Sham or other terrorist organizations, and it's on their accounts that quite often our Western colleagues are basing their criticism of Syria, of Russia, of whoever. So in this regard, White Helmets clearly plays a very destructive role, and it clearly is a tool in the toolbox of those who are working against Syria, against its legitimate authorities. And we, of course, we do criticize this approach. We can't say that this organization is trustworthy because they were caught with a smoking gun very many times by staging these video reels that then went viral in the internet. So they can't be considered to be NGO, unbiased NGO. Rather, they just do what they are supposed to do by those who back them. And I think that the situation is quite clear after, if you follow the process of repatriation of members of White Helmets from the countries where they were evacuated after vast parts of Syrian territory were liberated. So many of these of White Helmets are still there in the countries of evacuation because nobody wants them because of their terrorist activities. And this is a clear indication that these are not activists, these are not people who wanted to help, but these were people who were doing something that was supposed for them to be done. And this is very deplorable. That's why, of course, we can't consider White Helmet any reliable source of information, either previously or now. Okay?
Pamela Falk, next.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, Fedor. What do you expect to get out of the Biden-Putin summit?
Well, a meeting, first of all. We expect that there will be a meeting. There is still a long way to go, and, well, we keep our fingers crossed. But you know that our American colleagues are very capricious. They always try to put forward preconditions, and there are no preconditions so far. Minister Lavrov and other members of Russian elite indicated that we would be ready to sit and discuss everything, provided there are facts on the table. So that's what we really expect from this summit. There are no taboo topics there, but we will not discuss allegations and claims in this highly likely type, or there is no other plausible explanation type. Give us facts, put them on the table, and we will discuss them. So far, there have been no facts on the episodes that are attributed to Russia by United States, by Britain, by the way, first and foremost, by some other countries like Czech Republic, for example. So we are very keen to engage in the United States as much as it is as it serves Russian interests, of course, on any issues that are of mutual interest, but seriously, equal to equal, and with facts on the table. That's absolutely sure. So let's wait and see.
Thank you.
It's not too long to wait. Yeah.
Any more questions?
If there are no more questions, I would just like to thank you all, and also, okay, just I will give you the floor, but let me make a comment first.
It's a short question.
It's a short, okay.
I just want to know, do you think that Assad has been re-elected with 95.1% of the vote? Do you think that the election were free and fair?
Well, it's difficult for me to say it from New York. I'm not a Western politician that knows it from the very beginning that it is faked or not faked. I don't know about the exact figures. I heard about these figures. These figures are put forward by the special agencies that are responsible for elections in Syria. There are monitors there. There are no monitors from Western countries, as far as I understand. But there are individual monitors from Western countries, of course. There are monitors from CIS, I think, from Russia. So far, I haven't heard about any irregularities, so I don't have any reasons being here in New York to doubt the figures that were put forward by Syrian authorities in this regard. I'm not a mathematician, so I don't have any calculations of my own. Again, I want to thank you all, and I want to also congratulate you with the returning of Security Council to in-person meetings, which happened several days ago. I pay tribute to the Chinese presidency. I also am very glad that me personally and my colleagues, as you might have noticed, during the last month, we all the time pointed out that it is a normal situation that Security Council is meeting online when New York is opening and when General Assembly is working. So we were insistent and appealing to all of our colleagues to come back, and we are very glad that this happened, and we are also very glad that Russia contributed to this by installing the dividers that yesterday Ambassador Nebenzia handed over to Undersecretary General Khare, and these dividers contribute to providing a secure environment for us to work in the Security Council chamber. Thank you, everybody. I wish you a good day. Thank you.